Everybody, what's going on? I am Gregg Sussman, joined today by Jim Sonis of FanDuel, who had a fantastic weekend. I don't even need to ask him because at 17-1 with Dustin Johnson, a ticket he has held for the last 8 months, it had to be a perfect weekend. What's up, Jim?
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than smart, Greg, and I got very lucky with that, given the way. I mean, obviously, like you can't be lucky given the circumstances that led to the Masters being postponed, but I'll take it. Not going to complain about some free money by any means. So good weekend for sure. Good DFS weekend too, and some exciting players getting good usage, especially DeAndre Swift. So I'm just in a good mood. How are you doing?
I've been doing better if Jared Goff threw for a single touchdown yesterday, Jim.
But Josh Reynolds got buckets, man. At least we had that.
He did get a ton of buckets. Russell Wilson didn't do too much either. So that game wasn't really the game for me. But you mentioned DeAndre Swift, and we talked about him as a player whose stock was rising, I feel like, over the past few weeks. And now it's happening. The report came out either Saturday or Sunday that Matt Patricia was going to trust this guy. And I was waiting for Adrian Peterson to be the starter in that game and then somehow get 20 carries. It didn't happen. DeAndre Swift, he did. 23.4 FanDuel points later. It certainly seems like DeAndre Swift has entered our circle of trust.
Yeah, he got a tick up a couple weeks ago with that really good game against Atlanta, but then here things kind of got pumped up like it was a tick before. This is a leap for DeAndre Swift. The reasons that you mentioned, we couldn't initially trust him because we know the Lions are a frustrating, very strange team, and we couldn't say, okay, even if he's good, it may not lead to usage right away. Here we saw that, though, and I think the good thing about DeAndre Swift is that we saw all the peripherals come to fruition this week. 71% snap rate. That is the first time he has topped a 62% snap rate this year, so up 9 percentage points from his previous high. He had 16 carries and 5 targets, and that's valuable for anyone, but it's especially valuable when you're good, and DeAndre Swift is freaking good, man. That's really helpful. So I'm not saying this is a comparison, but it's kind of similar to Alvin Kamara in his rookie season, where when his volume went up incrementally, it mattered more because he was good at football. And I think we're seeing kind of similar things here with DeAndre Swift. Every additional carry, every additional target that he gets is extra valuable because he does quite a bit on that volume. He gets downfield targets in this team. He gets targets in the red zone, which we love for sure. So DeAndre Swift just seems to be trending up. And I think we're not going to see that end anytime soon because he gets Carolina next week, Houston the week after that on Thanksgiving, which means that he'll be like 100% lock for the Thanksgiving DFS slate. And then just a good schedule after that too. So I am always hesitant to trust this Lions coaching staff. I will continue to be hesitant for sure, but I think that DeAndre Swift has kind of forced their hands and has made himself a DFS type fixture. He has $6,900 for week 11 in DFS. I think that is a smidge too low, and I think that the efficiency here is good enough for us to trust him, even if he doesn't get the same volume that he had in week number 10. So DeAndre Swift has been on our radar for a bit now, but he's firmly in the crosshairs given what he did on Sunday. So I think that we can kind of, let our guard down a bit with this Lions team, as scary as it may be, and trust DeAndre Swift from week 11 going forward.
I definitely don't trust this Lions coaching staff. The coaching staff that almost blew it yesterday against the Washington football team. They wind up surviving. They still have jobs, but more importantly for us, DeAndre Swift very much has a job as well. The talent is clear. It's been clear for weeks. It's amazing that we can see something that coaching staff cannot. But it certainly seems that they have now entrusted DeAndre Swift. And over the next couple of weeks, with that schedule nice and soft with Carolina and Houston coming up, it should be a fun time to lock and load DeAndre Swift into our lineups. The Pittsburgh wide receiving core has been a little tough to figure out as well. We went through the whole Chase Claypool thing, which continued yesterday. Juju Smith-Schuster's been up and down. He was good yesterday. But Deontay Johnson, when he's out there, he certainly seems like the man. Yesterday, he had 20.6 FanDuel points, and Ben Roethlisberger was looking for him early and often throughout the day. I never know which Steelers wide receiver to go to, but Deontay Johnson is someone whose stock you believe is rising here in daily fantasy. How come?
It could just be a situation where I was too low on Deontay Johnson previously, because I feel like I've been lower on consensus than everyone else on Deontay Johnson since the offseason, because he has never really shown yardage upside. He's had a good target share, but because he doesn't get downfield looks and isn't super efficient, it hasn't mattered. But yesterday it did matter because he had 116 receiving yards. That is the most he has had in his entire career by 24 yards. So my concern was yardage upside. That is no longer a concern based on what he did on Sunday. Now, if you look at the games where they've had all three, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Deontay Johnson healthy, Deontay is second on the team in targets behind Juju Smith-Schuster, and that's a good thing for Juju Smith-Schuster. But Deontay is getting more high-leverage targets than Juju, and he's getting more yardage upside as a result of that. So despite the fact that Juju does lead the team in targets in that time, I'm still going to rank Deontay Johnson higher because I feel better about him getting downfield work. He doesn't need, 15 targets to get to 100 yards. He only needs like 12 because Ben Roethlisberger is not necessarily chucking it downfield all that often. So I had one concern with Deontay Johnson. It was not target share. It was not stickiness in this offense. It was not his floor. It was his upside. But on Sunday, he showed that upside. I think that's a good thing. He can get touchdowns. Now I know he can get yardage too. So I'm willing to embrace Deontay Johnson going forward. The salaries on these three guys are honestly pretty comical in week 11 because they're all either $6,500 or $6,400. So basically FanDuel is saying, you figure it out. We're not going to. And I think that if you're doing that, you have to rank Deontay Johnson first. Claypool is in play because he gets the high leverage targets, the high leverage rushes. And Juju is in play because the volume is good. But if I'm picking just one guy in this receiving core right now, it's going to be Deontay Johnson.
I love that FanDuel's mantra is, you figure it out with Steelers wide receiver to grab. And maybe you were too low on Deontay Johnson, but his stock is rising here with those 20.6 FanDuel points yesterday. The target share certainly seems to be there whenever he's healthy, whenever he's on the field. Ben Roethlisberger is looking his way, and now we can see that he can do more after the catch, and he can be productive inside the red zone. Deontay Johnson becomes someone that's worth watching or putting into your lineups even in DFS. I'm really excited to talk about the last game because I feel like too often we overlook these Thursday night games by the time we roll around to Monday and Tuesday of the week after, right? Because everyone's so focused on what happened on Sunday. We need to go back to last Thursday and talk about what Michael Pittman Jr. did. Pittman had 15.7 FanDuel points, and I don't trust Phillip Rivers. I get it. The only person I want to believe in is Nyheim Hines because it's going to be dump off, dump off, dump off. But T.Y. Hilton really hasn't gotten into the mix at all through the first 10 weeks of this year. And Michael Pittman, back from injury, certainly made his mark on Thursday night. Can that continue, Jim?
I think so. And it's another situation where I'm a bit hesitant to dive in because, the Colts aren't as frustrating as the Lions, but they've been close so far this year. They've basically been giving the double-barreled middle fingers to all DFS players because they have not given anyone really good, dependable usage. But Michael Pittman looked good Thursday, and he got good volume. So I think that we might have enough here where I can finally, for the first time all year, use a Colt not named Jonathan Taylor in a DFS lineup. And those didn't go that well either. So we'll see if this sticks. But I think that it was encouraging. So we look at the two games that Michael Pittman has played full snaps since coming back. He's averaging 7.5 targets per game. He has 2 downfield targets per game in that span and 1.5 red zone targets per game. And now T.Y. Hilton did not play in one of those games. But in the game with T.Y. Hilton, we saw Pittman actually get a 21% target market share. That's only the 5th time this year the Colts have had a 20% market share for anyone, according to my coworker, Brandon Gadula. He's been tracking this for a while because on our recap podcast, we're not big fans of the Colts. But finally, in week 10, they did give good usage to Michael Pittman. So I'm open to it. I'm not saying that I'm prioritizing Michael Pittman, using him over everyone else, but I'm open to it, whereas I was not previous. And that's a pretty big shift for anyone in this Colts offense. So I think that he has talent. I think that Phillip Rivers is still good enough to support fantasy relevant players within this offense. When you add those two things together, I think that's enough for us to use Michael Pittman in daily fantasy. As long as the salary stays low enough, he does have a tough matchup. If Jair Alexander is able to play in week number 11, we also don't know if Jair Alexander would shadow Michael Pittman because there's a lot of volatility in wide receiver cornerback matchups. So I think that Michael Pittman is someone who needs to be on our radar now, whereas that didn't really need to be the case previously outside of single game slates. Pittman trending up and making me finally interested in a Colts player, which I didn't think I would do for the rest of this year once Jonathan Taylor clearly became not a thing.
This Colts team is weird. Not being able to trust Jonathan Taylor is brutal, especially once Marlon Mack went down. We all thought this was Jonathan Taylor's backfield for good. It hasn't happened. T.Y. Hilton goes down. Nobody really steps up. T.Y. Hilton comes back, and it's the Michael Pittman show. Who knows what's going to happen with Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts? But Michael Pittman, as a young receiver, as a rookie, is only getting better. And you can see that progress with your own eyes. It's not just looking at advanced statistics to come to that realization. But the statistics are there. And he does pass the eye test. Michael Pittman could be somebody long-term that's cheap enough on DFS to make it worth it for you each and every Sunday. That's going to do it for us here on the FanDuel Hurry Up. Jim, we appreciate the time. I'll talk to you later this week.
I am looking forward to it, Greg. The Week 11 slate looking pretty tasty so far. A lot of good running backs back on there, so a lot of tough decisions, and I can't wait to talk through it with you on Friday.
It will be fun Friday, but we have a while to go before we get there, because tomorrow I'll be joined right here on the FanDuel Hurry Up with Tom Vecchio as we take a look at the top players on the board for this Week 11 DFS slate. For Jim Sonis, I'm Gregg Sussman. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy Monday Night Football tonight, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of the FanDuel Hurry Up.